What is your most nsfw story about walking in on someone doing the dirty or being walked in on? I was about 18 or so and I was hooking up with my stepsister's friend when my dad knocks on my door. Me and the friend stop and my dad pops his head in and asks if I'm going anywhere tomorrow. I reply no and then he leaves. The next day I asked him what that was all about and he replies, "Well, I heard what was going on and I just wanted to make sure it wasn't your stepsister. Thanks, Dad." HS girlfriend giving me head in my truck, in her parents' driveway. She didn't like me finishing in her mouth, so I desperately look around and open the door and finish in the driveway. The house across the street was having their roof replaced. Whole crew of roofers just saw me nut in the driveway. So one fine summer afternoon my husband and I were sitting in the backyard having some drinks. And as one does, I was getting a bit frisky. I went in the house to make another pitcher of drinks and came back out in my birthday suit. Husband took the hint and we proceeded to get it on a lawn chair. I was on top of him facing the house when all of a sudden the patio door slides opens and there stands my mother-in-law. Now a normal person would be embarrassed about barging into someone's house and seeing them having sex. Not my mother-in-law. She just stands there laughing her ass off. I jumped up and grabbed the closest thing to cover up with, which happened to be this disgusting kiddie pool we have for the dog. My husband still didn't know what was going on, so he's standing there at full mast, shorts around his ankles, wondering why I am flopping around trying to roll myself up in the dog pool. Finally he sees his mother, puts back on his shorts at light speed and starts laughing at me. I ended up walking through my house wrapped in the dog pool to collect my clothes and get dressed. In my teens, grandparents had a hot tub that was inside an enclosed sunroom. The door from their bedroom opened right next to where it was situated. I'm balls deep in the GF and working on her right boob. The door, about 2 feet away, opens and I make eye contact with Grandpa just as I'm licking my GF's nipple. He coughs and says, "Oh, excuse me," and closes the door. Grandpa was chill AF. I was on top of my girlfriend at the time, doing the deed. Her mom props the door open. Not knowing what to do, I just froze. Her mother decided to calmly walk over to me and rest her hand on my bare shoulder. I stayed frozen as if she was a freaking T-Rex. All she said was, "You better be wearing a condom," walked out and shut the door. I died that day. My mom walked into my room on the exact moment I was taking the girl's bra off and asked we were hungry. It was hilarious. Not during the act, but after having sex while still naked. We were in my room with the door shut. She was in the bed and I was on my chair in front of my keyboard and computer. I started playing Build Me Up Buttercup and singing it to her. Well, my roommate heard this, and being that it's the best sing-along song ever, he came up to my door singing and knocked to see if he could come in and sing with me. I said do not come in, but he only heard come in. So my roommate walked in on me, naked on my chair playing piano, and my girlfriend, naked on my bed. The worst part about it was that he didn't recognize the situation and stayed in there for a solid minute confused as to why we told him to come in when we were naked. When I was a teen, my girlfriend at the time's mum walked in while I was under the covers going down on her. Not knowing what to do or say, I just stayed there hiding until she finished her conversation with her daughter, hoping I wouldn't be noticed. However, in the panic I failed to realize my feet had been sticking out the end of the bed the whole time. Needless to say, I was mortified and could hardly face my girlfriend's parents afterwards. Although in the end she was pretty alright about it and let me off pretty easy, only making a few jokes before conveniently forgetting what had even happened. My high school girlfriend was giving me my first blowjob. We were in my room and she was laying down and wanted me to straddle her face while she did the deed. The door was next to the headboard which I was facing. My mom walks in to see if we want dinner and, well, she saw everything penis in mouth. Me on top of this poor girl. She slammed the door and didn't let us back in my room forever. LOL. The only time I've walked in on anything, but it's a doozy. I went to tell my brother that a classmate of ours had passed away. I knocked on his door and received no answer. Not unusual, since he's a heavy sleeper, but I decided I ought to go ahead and wake him up to tell him. He wasn't sleeping. He was jacking off to hentai with his headphones on. I managed to leave without him noticing. Since his back was to me, but I still saw more than I ever needed to. Now I can't remember our dead classmate without thinking about my brother jacking it to hentai. In my uni halls, walked into a mate's room to see if he was joining us for beers. I opened the door asking the question and look up to find him stark naked, laptop on legs, headphones on, meats in hand. Silence between the two of us. It was like I hit pause for a few seconds, nodded and left him to it. He came for beers too. Use your door locks, fellas. My sister once walked in on me saying that I had to hang up my washing as it had just been washed. I had just finished and had some ejaculate on my hands which I was in the process of cleaning. I was undercover, so thankfully she didn't see me naked. Upon noticing what was on my hand, she said with a horrified look on her face, "What's that on your hand?" The only excuse I could think of was that I'd sneezed and some snot landed on my hand. It didn't work. Didn't walk in on him. My roommate just started having sex with a girl while I was in the room. He thought I was sleeping, but still. And all I really remember is seeing his butt and them grunting, then I fell back asleep. Back in freshman year at college, my roommate and I arranged for me to sleep in another room while his girlfriend visited one weekend. Her first night there, we all go to a party and get demonstrably drunk. In my inebriated state, I forgot my promise and went to sleep in my bed. I woke up to our bunk bed shaking. After the shaking stopped, I waited 10 minutes and tried to leave the room as quietly as possible. My roommate and I never spoke of it, but we both knew what had transpired. Went to my bedroom to grab something in the middle of the night. My sister and her boyfriend were visiting for the holidays and I saw them pass out, mid-sex, both naked on my bed. The next morning, he puked in my garbage can, but at least he washed it out. Back in college when I was visiting my then boyfriend, now husband, at his fraternity house, we were getting down with the get down when we were suddenly showered with drywall insulation and greeted by two chubby legs protruding from the ceiling. Turns out some of the brothers got drunk and thought it would be a good idea to explore the attic. The rest of the brothers stormed into the room to see if their fallen comrade was okay, so there I was, naked, covered in fiberglass insulation, putting on an unintended show for some of the guys who would later be in my wedding party. Was seeing a woman a couple of years ago who was recently divorced with teenage kids. Went to her house one evening after her daughter left for some sort of practice. Started getting frisky on the couch and we were going full throttle when her 17-year-old daughter walked through the front door announcing practice was cancelled. She wouldn't look me in the eye for quite some time. Ex-Phineas and I on her bed midday. She is wearing this skimpy outfit that leaves nothing to the imagination. I am fully clothed going down on her when her sister walks and goes, "Jesus, OMG, I'm sorry," while frantically closing the door. We laughed. Well, I did. I was with my GF at her house. We always just stayed in her room. She loved to get it on. So there we were, in her room, under the covers, spooning and doing the dirty. We were being quiet because her parents were home. Suddenly, her dad walks in. I go completely still. He walks up to the bed and starts talking to my GF. I'm just laying there like, WTF, penis still in her. He leans over the bed and stares at me. I'm like, hey? Then he just walks out. I almost died. When my ex-wife and I were looking for our first apartment together, we visited this one complex in a fairly affluent Chicago suburb. The leasing agent took us into a rented unit saying this resident wasn't home and was perfectly okay with the agent showing the place. The agent unlocked the door and swung it wide open immediately. To everybody's horror, the resident was home that day and had hooked up his laptop to the TV and was enjoying himself, ankles behind his ears. This happened when I lost my virginity. I was boning this girl at her best friend's house. Her friend was there, planning on participating, but fully clothed still. We hear her mom come home and start walking towards the room, so the girl and I who were naked jump out into the backyard and the mom walks in the door and sees both of our clothes in a pile like a scene from the movies. And she just says extremely sternly to her daughter, "Whoever these people are, get them the frick out of my house."